This is the final answer heard all around the world. He's won $1 million.
What? What?
Hello, everyone, and this is the Novig app. I'm capturing straight from the Novig app itself. I'm not connecting it to my computer this time and trying to display it from there. I feel like showing it live like this is more useful to you. You can see exactly what I'm seeing live right now at 9:24 p.m. on October 28th of the year 2025. And I wanted to show some nice progress. You'll see my cash balance is at $86.87. And you might be like, oh, in your last video to now, you gained some, sure, but not a lot. Well, I did withdraw $20 as a test. And sure enough, that went through just fine, like I had expected. So to recap exactly what I've done on the Novig app in the month of October, I deposited $45 and got $50 of the Novig cash due to the bonus, which sometimes appears over here. Right now it's just $50 and you get 50 cash. That's $50 here and 50 Novig cash there. But for new deposits, you'll get a discount. In my case, it was $45 real money for $50 Novig cash. So deposited 45, my balance is 86.87, and I withdrew 20. So I went from $45 to a total of $106.87. Now, what does that math equate to? Well, 106.87 minus 45 is $61.87. That's pure profit. If I divide that by the $45 I started with, my growth in terms of percentage is 137% growth. That's tremendous. I mean, in 1 month, 137% growth. Like, that's crazy. That's like bonkers. You'll in the stock market, you'll be good to have 9% growth over a year. So to get 137 in a month is crazy. Now, is that reliable? Is this a reliable kind of investment? Well, maybe. Let's take a look at my portfolio. So I do have a small little parlay, just something I'm toying with. I don't do a lot of hockey bets, but I do occasionally. In this case, $3 on a 2-game parlay of Toronto and Florida. Toronto won the first one, and Florida is currently tied and will likely go to overtime, it looks like. So that's just what I have going on tonight. So let's look at settled bets. And here's what I really like, these profit boosts on parlays. Starting off with baseball, World Series is going on. This was the game that went to 18 innings, so this was kind of an easy one. So Freddie Freeman, at least one hit, Mookie Betts, at least a hit, and Shohei with at least a home run. And those all hit. So $5 became $27.62. Similarly, I tried another profit boost for the NFL, $5. Travis Kelce hit, and then the Chiefs covered the teaser spread I put, but Mahomes just missed out on the rushing attempts. I just needed one more kneel down or something. That didn't hit, but that's okay because in the rewards section, if you scroll down to the parlay insurance, if I win all my legs of a parlay except for one, it counts towards this insurance bonus. So the first time it happened, I got $5. After 5 parlays, you get $10. So this one that I missed with Patrick Mahomes, that was the last one I needed to claim my $10 bonus from the parlay insurance. So that was a nice little bonus on the side. And again, I put a pretty large bet, $17.64. Now you might be thinking, well, large, that's not large at all. What the heck? Well, I'm doing at most $5 bets. $3, $5 here and there. But I was super confident with the Bills just on the money line. So that worked out good. This profit boost parlay didn't hit, but I hit 2 out of 3. So that was toward the insurance. This profit boost parlay did hit. Again, baseball. Shohei with the home run. Vladimir Guerrero, over 4.5. This parlay didn't hit, but same thing. 2 out of 3 did, so that went to the insurance. That one was canceled. And this one was straight up loss. I didn't hit anything on them. I had a rough parlay on that one. Same as this one. I actually did it twice. I accidentally did the same exact parlay twice. So that's my bad. That mistake cost me, the $5 I could have had back. But that's okay. Got some more winners here. And then you'll see here another early payout. I mentioned it last time with the CMC touchdowns. So what happened is I was early and I placed a bet on the Denver money line. And then the New York Giants money line moved quite a bit to plus 333. So I ended up taking that and hedging my bet to get automatic profit. So I spent $6.52 to make $6.59. So I profited 7 cents. Is that a lot? No, not really. I could have just left it on the Denver Broncos and won, but this was a crazy, crazy comeback. 1 in 1,000 comeback. So that's okay. I'll take the guaranteed money anytime. Another parlay hit. So you'll see I'm pretty good at these parlays. And what I'm doing is I'm doing like teasers. So I'll look at, for example, Dak Prescott. I know he's often over this much, and this line might be, minus 200. This line might be minus 200. And then this one, this bottom one, might be plus 100 or plus 110. What I'm saying is, if you combine all these in a parlay, you'll get a decent odds, plus 127 in this case. But if we go up to the profit boost, by combining a little bit longer ones, as long as you cross that 300 threshold, you'll get that profit boost. And where do you see that? Those profit boosts are up here. Look at the NHL same game parlay boost. 20% boost, max amount is $15, minimum leg is 3 legs, and odds are plus 300. So if you can get close to that plus 300 and exactly 3 legs, you'll qualify for that profit boost, and it's going to be worth your while. And how does this work? Like, why does this work? What is the math behind this? Well, it's something called expected value, or EV. And I'll show you that back on the computer side.
All right, so let's talk about expected values. So again, what is expected value? An expected value would be your expected return on a bet or investment if you were somehow able to infinitely make that bet or investment. And does that really make sense? No, not really. Can you infinitely bet? Well, no, you can't. There's a human lifetime. There's a lifetime of the earth and the universe and the sun. But if we were to take that assumption, and in fact, infinite can be boiled down to just a very large number. If you made the same bet, 1,000 times, maybe even 10,000 times, 1,000,000 times, however many times it gets before you start seeing the same thing over and over and over. So what does all this mean? Well, if you take an example of what is considered a fair bet, if you flip a coin and you're betting $2 that it lands on heads, there's a 50% chance right here, the 50% chance that you win or your balance becomes $4. Then there's also a 50% chance that your balance becomes $0. So if you were to do this math, you'll see that your expected value is $2. If you repeat this bet over and over and over enough times, you're just going to be ending up with $2 in your balance. There is no growth here. You're getting back what you're putting in because it's a fair bet. Half the time you're doubling your money and half the time you're losing it. Now that's not very fun for a sports bettor. We want to get something out of our bets. We don't just want to sit there and keep our balance the same. We want growth, just like an investor. So here's an example of an unfair bet. Go to the roulette table at your local casino, and in American roulette, at least, there is a 0 and a double 0. They're green. So there are 38 numbers total, and you're betting $2 on red. Well, there's an 18 red numbers out of your 38 numbers total. So 18 out of 38 times 4, because that's what your balance would become, plus all of the other numbers, the black and the greens, 20 out of 38 times what your balance would be, $0. And you end up with $1.89. That's how there's a house advantage of 11 cents on this bet. So you're going to lose 11 cents every time you place this bet if you were to do this infinitely. Now, of course, you can walk up to a casino, put $1,000 on red, and it could land on red and you walk away with $2,000. That's great. But your odds are not in your favor. You have a greater chance of losing 20 non-red numbers as opposed to 18. But you're still getting paid as if it was 50-50, and it's not. So that's why it's an unfair bet. So for sports bettors, we need to find ways to make our own advantage, have a positive expected value, growth expected value. So here's an example of a fictitious example. So you're placing a $2 sports bet that has exactly 50% chance of hitting, and you're given odds of plus 110. With odds of 110. In this example, it's of 110. I originally had greater than plus 100, but I wanted to give you a firm example, so I just said plus 110. So we came up with that there's a 50% chance of this sports bet happening. So 50% chance times what your balance would be, and it's $4.20. So a 110 positive sports line on a $2 bet, you end with $4.20. Then there's a 50% chance that you lose and you end up with nothing. You add that up and you get $2.10, your advantage of 10 cents. That's a positive expected value, a growth. So if you were to infinitely repeat this bet, you would grow on average 10 cents every single time you place that bet. Now, of course, this is all scalable. It's all just math. You can make this $20 bet, a $200 bet, whatever you want. You can change the odds. But the tricky part, and hopefully you're thinking about this, how do you come up with that a sports bet has a 50% chance of hitting? How do you find that out? It's not a roll of a dice. It's not a flip of a coin. It's not a ball rolling in a set number wheel. It's sports. It's very random. It's unpredictable. There's parity in that teams can win on any given day. So how can we know roughly what the chances of a sports bet hitting? Well, if we think about the Patrick Mahomes bet I had, it was over 4.5 rushing attempts. So let's look at how we come up with what likelihood that was. So here's Patrick Mahomes' stat lines for the season thus far. And the first game is on the bottom and most recent is on top. So we're looking at the rushing stats. And he needed over 4.5, so at least 5. So I'm looking at his rushing attempts. And this was the game I lost on. So I only had data for this season for all these previous rows. So he missed that bet here. He would have missed that bet here. So 2 out of 7 games, he missed the bet. 5 out of 7 games, he hits that bet. So that's more than 50% chance. Now, the problem is that's a small sample size. We don't know what mean he is approaching, a higher mean or a lower mean. We don't know. That's part of sports and how it's unpredictable. But I knew it was a decent chance that it could happen. And with the profit boost, boosting my odds, going back to our expected value here, boosting our odds, this right here, in my estimations, it had a positive expected value. And this is repeatable. This exercise is repeatable for any sport. This exercise here, looking at previous stats. And websites like this, Pro Football Reference, is so good because you can look at any kind of season you want. Let's look at 2024, Patrick Mahomes. Let's look at his rushing. Look at his attempts. He missed it here. Whoops. But he hits it here, 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 here. Misses, hits, misses, hits. So roughly 50% or so. And with those boosted odds, it was a good bet for me, in my opinion. If the odds were not boosted, then I probably wouldn't have made that bet, I should say. Now, one thing you could do, taking this even a step further, is start thinking about, do I really end up with $0 if my bet loses? Well, you would probably think, well, of course, like that's the whole point. You lose your bet, you lose your money. But you have to think about the insurance, the parlay insurance, and all the other forms of insurance that Novig has. So firstly, the first time your parlay hits 2 out of 3 legs, you get $5. So you basically get your money back if it's a $5 bet on the parlay. You do that 10 times total, you get $10 back. Okay? So is this really zero? You can make an argument that it's not. Maybe it's actually 50 cents. Is that insurance hit worth it? Depending where you are in the insurance track, it might be worth 50 cents. So this increases by 25 cents. So that becomes $2.35. Your advantage of 35 cents. And that's a better advantage than the house did back in roulette. So that's a really good deal. That's how you can grow your balance. Now, the reason why no one's getting rich quick off of this is the fact that the profit boosts have a maximum limit. You know, $15, $10, $20, whatever Novig shows for that particular boost. So that will limit the amount of your expected value for sure. But there are great things to have, and they refresh all the time. Basically daily, there's some kind of profit boost going on. If there's sports going on, there's probably a profit boost going on. And I just saw that the Florida Panthers lost. So my parlay lost. And it wasn't a parlay boost. It was just 2 legs at plus 120 or whatever the odds were. But that's okay. I'm going to place another bet to try to make up for it. It'll just be another $3 bet on another plus 120. Probably a single money line. I see Vancouver is at home and an underdog, so I'll go with that. And of course, Novig lets you make bets, not just take them. So you can set your own odds. You become a house. You can become a house advantage if you want to. You can set the lines. If you don't like the lines, you think they can be better, well, you go ahead and do that. And if you get in early enough, you can set your line. Hopefully someone takes you up on it. And then if the opposing line moves, you can hedge it and get an automatic profit, guaranteed, free money. So what we are looking at is a compilation of a YouTuber's curse wheel and the results. YouTuber in question is Brandon Perna, and I'll put a link to his channel in the description. And what he did was, starting in 2021, when he was doing his power rankings videos, he began to spin a wheel to curse a team at random. He would put the top 10 teams that he ranked in his power rankings on a spinning wheel, and he would spin the wheel in an attempt to curse them. So for instance, the very first spin, he cursed the Chargers. Well, the Chargers were on their bye week, so they didn't play that week. So the very first one that actually mattered was in week 8 of 2021. the wheel landed on 3 and cursed the Bengals. The Bengals did lose. The odds of their opponent winning was plus 420. So if you were to bet $100, you would have ended up with $420 profit. Okay? Now, if we add all these up, the regular season ended at $956 profit. A couple games were spun in the playoffs. So $1,056 for the 2021 NFL season. That's very good. Betting $100 on each spin, you'd end up with $1,000, $1,056, excuse me. He repeated this in 2022, and this was a bad year, the worst year ever. The regular season lost $1,200. With the playoffs, lost over $1,300. In 2023, was a little bit better, $740 after the regular season, after some playoff losses and a little win, ended up with $553. In 2024, last year, he had a up and down year. Regular season was so-so, gain $129. Playoffs were perfect, a gain of $286 after the playoffs. And this year, he's off to a great start. The first two did not go the wheel's way. The next 5 did. And then most recently, the wheel cursed the Broncos, which is Brandon's team, by the way. But that didn't happen. But either way, the regular season so far, gain of $296. All time, after you sum up all of the years, including this year that's in progress, a gain of $809. That's 78 wagers, a total of $7,800 being bet. Your expected value, basically, or the profit per wager, is $10. So a roughly 10% profit every time you bet on this wheel. You just have to remember, you're going to have to survive this year, the 2022, if you're following this, like to the T. Why do I bring all this up? Well, first of all, the wheel is profitable, which is kind of crazy. You're spinning a wheel with the top 10, sometimes the top 16 teams. So they're pretty good teams, and they're being cursed, which means you want them to lose. And those bets are paying off on average. Not all the time. There's bad times and good times. But so far, it is in the green. Now, if you notice, I'm keeping track of the results and the odds because I wanted to do something. I wanted to see, were there any odds that historically have been favorable or unfavorable? Well, let's see. Go to analysis. You'll see on the left, I tabled out from the lowest odds to the highest and the results, a 1 meaning a win, 0 meaning a loss. And you'll see. So you'll see when the graph line is high, that's a win. When it's low, it's a loss. So around these very big negative numbers, the highly favored numbers, it's not that great. Even if you win, you're not going to gain a lot of money. But if you lose, you're losing your whole bet. So that's not very good. This is a good stretch from minus 500 to minus 235. That's a good stretch of nothing but wins so far. After that, it's kind of up and down, back and forth. Most, pretty unfavorable because you're betting the favorites and you would lose your whole bet, but you wouldn't gain it all back. So it's a negative expected value. And then we get to here, minus 165 to minus 125, all wins. So that's a favorable range. Then we're back to some up and downs. And then now we're in the positive. So you're betting on the underdog. From 130 to 158, all lost. Some more up and downs. A few more losses around 230, 240, 270, 275, 285. And then you get to here, starting at 310 and up. You have some wins, a couple losses, more wins, a couple losses. So if these were 50-50, so half the time you're losing the bet, half the time you're winning the bet, that's a positive expected value because these are huge odds that you're getting. You know, quadrupling your money, tripling your money type of thing, even more than that. So even though there might be an equal number of wins and losses, the odds are in your favor. They're more than 50%. They're more than doubling your money. Like I said, they're tripling, quadrupling, quintupling your money potentially. So this isn't a bad area. This is not a bad area at all. I would say this is bad, this is bad, this is very bad. This is bad because it's not positive expected value. This area is fine. This area is fine. But that's it. It's not extremely all over the place. Like there are some favored values, and I think that's worth noting. In fact, when the Broncos were cursed and the odds of the opponent winning was 145, I knew 145 was in an unfavorable range, not favorable. So I did not bet. I did not follow. I instead placed my money on the Bills and won. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 145 positive. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong area right here. Unfavorable. Minus 145 is favorable, but plus 145 was not favorable, so I did not bet. Now, if you wanted to take a look at this yourself, I'll put the link down in the description, and maybe next time you can follow along. And with that, thank you so much. Y'all take care, and subscribe to the channel to find more about Novig and sports betting. Have a good one.
That's it. All done.